Welcome to quite possibly some of the worst garbage on the internet. This is Cringe of the World. My name is Solar Sands, and you might know me best for my somewhat famous series, Browsing DeviantArt, in which I review all kinds of art from the cesspool known as DeviantArt. But I wanted to expand on this idea of looking through terrible stuff and commenting on it, because there is so much more trash than what exists only on DeviantArt, and my thirst for suicide is not nearly as high as it could be. So without further ado, let's begin with something I've always wanted to talk about: Bendy and the Ink Machine. Bendy and the Ink Machine is one of those indie horror games that I can only describe as okay. Just okay. It's completely average. Ever since the two Let's Players who have kickstarted almost every terrible video game fandom to plague the internet, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, played the game, it has exploded in popularity. And I really don't know why. Maybe it's because the indie horror game genre is so stale and repetitive that any game that even stands out in the slightest, people will immediately flock to. Or maybe a bunch of teenage girls like the game because they are obsessed with the main character because their design is cute. And I find that funny, because if a bunch of people think your character in a horror game is cute, don't you think you've kind of failed? And while reading a lot of reviews, I also noticed that many people like the game mostly because of the art style. And while I'll admit it is unique to be put into a game, it's not exactly original. It seems a bit strange to base most of your opinion on an art style when the rest of the game is very bland. In the first chapter, almost nothing happens. You complete a really simple puzzle, walk around in some halls, and then leave. At least in the second chapter, it starts to pick up with these weird black ink things and a little bit of story, I guess. But you see, this isn't the kind of story that asks you plenty of questions but gives you enough answers to keep you interested. No, this is the kind of story where you are left confused and bored for an hour. It doesn't actually develop anything, it just sort of throws random phrases at you and expects you to stay intrigued. And while the gameplay and story are painfully dull, it does have something of an atmosphere and it is visually interesting. And I know that the game isn't complete yet, and maybe in future updates I will change my mind, but since each chapter takes like a month to release, I'm just gonna have to state what I think of it so far. That is why I think this game is very average, but like I stated before, the internet thinks otherwise. Long story short, the first chapter was released, people went crazy, and then the fandom sort of developed. The first thing that always happens is the porn, and oh boy, this time it's really lovely. In some drawings, Bendy sort of ejaculates out of his eyes instead of his penis for some reason, and of course the semen is black ink. And in other drawings, we have straight up necrophilia, with Bendy having sex with Boris's corpse. So, good luck getting that image out of your head. I mean, this stuff is really horrid. I'm actually impressed with how disgusting these drawings can be. Next is the OCs, and you know how much I love OCs. So this is how you make a Bendy and the Ink Machine OC. Number 1, give your character some Pac-Man eyes. Number 2, make it black and white. Done. I mean, who can forget such wonderful OCs like
Wendy the Devil and Doris the Wolf.
In fact, all these OCs just look like Bendy with slightly different clothing and head shapes. There's basically nothing unique about any of them. Also, sometimes you can find the occasional weird piece of art on Google Images. Like, I honestly don't know what this is. It just looks like Bendy is trying to rape a kid. Then we have a very large collection of YouTube videos, and when it comes to these videos, there is actually a very diverse assortment of fan creations. In fact, one of the very first things that caught my eye was this Lego animation of Bendy. It's actually very entertaining. So this video consists of a customized Lego Bendy character that is sometimes animated and other times just sort of waved in front of the camera. There's also this one frame where the camera just rests on this Lego power brick and doesn't do anything else. And I was confused for the longest time until my brother pointed out that it might represent the ink machine in the game, but the rest is just random nonsense. Then we have animations like this one, which are in Source Filmmaker, with camera movements that just make me sick most of the time. Like, is the quick zoom every second really necessary? Also, with almost all these animations, they attempt to animate Bendy's mouth movements in this weird way.
So you pound over pieces to initiate the pain. A venom stains, a knife remains, but the ending's always just the same.
Like his top row of teeth just sort of shrink up into his mouth each time he talks. That's not how mouths work. And then we have more musical creations, like this rap battle between Bendy and Flowey from Undertale. And I mean, the rap is mediocre, I suppose. Some of the verses are pretty awkward and the editing is kind of bland, but overall it's tolerable. Oh, and this is one of my favorite lines.
Howdy, it's Flowey. I bring the flower power. Keep your shit up, punk, and you will get devoured.
I don't think that's how proper English works. And here we have some of the dumbest stuff on the internet. These low-effort republish or ignore posts. Repost to save Bendy. Ignore to let him die of ink illness. I mean, if ignoring this post means Bendy's death and I already hated this post in the first place, then that's a win-win situation. But before we leave this episode, I want to at least highlight a few good creations from the fandom. One of them is this extremely popular song from DA Games, and while it is not the best thing I've ever heard, I will admit it's pretty catchy and actually matches the style of the game, although it can get a bit annoying. Some of the 2D Bendy animations can be pretty fun. They are usually pretty simple, and most of the time they do a good job on the art style. Also, I want to leave you with this image. I don't know if it's supposed to be bad or not. Either way, I'm probably going to use it a lot because I think it's hilarious. Anyway, I guess that's the end of this little adventure. My name is Solar Sands, and goodbye.